Shalom Aleichem, Kehilat Magan David in Maryland, Baruch Hashem, Thursday, our weekly class, Parashat MIKETZ. Again, Lrefua Shlema to Mr. Moshe Shirazzi, Bezrat Hashem, and Veditzה bat Esther, and Bezrat Hashem Hatzlacha to everybody else. Parashat MIKETZ, by the way, is always read in Chanukah. Just so you know, it's the secrets of Parashat MIKETZ. Why it's in Chanukah, there is a beautiful teaching. It says that, in every parasha of the Torah, at the end of the parasha, you'll see in the Chumashim how many verses in each parasha, right? Every parasha will tell you how many verses. The only parasha out of all the 54 parashot is Parashat MIKETZ, tells you also how many words in it. So there is 146 verses, and there's 2,025 words in this parasha. So what's 2025? It's alluding to the Chanukiah. The Chanukiah has 8 nerot. Ner, candle, in Hebrew, in Gematria is 250. We light 8. 250 times 8 is 2,000. And we light the menorah on Kafhei, which is the 25th of Kislev. So 2,000 plus 25 is exactly the amount of words in Parashat MIKETZ. Parashat MIKETZ, we know, is really, in a sense, is the parasha where Yosef become the king of the world. It's amazing to see how Hashem says everything he does is through Alila, through an amazing kind of, events and action and people that are involved in that. Nothing that you'll never even dream in reality that could happen, yet it happens through the Torah. So the Torah opens, says, "Vayhi miketz shnatayim yamim ufaro cholem." After 2 years, Yaakov Avinu is introduced to us 6 parashot into the book of Bereshit, and every parasha that deals with Yaakov and his kids has the letter Vav in the beginning, right? Vayishlach, Vayetze, Vayeshev, Vayehi, all kinds of Vayigash, all of them with Vav. Means there's a lot of addition to it and connection between him and Hashem and the Torah and the children of Israel, of course. So what happened at 2 years? Vayhi miketz shnatayim yamim. The Torah says something happened after 2 years. Why? Because of Pharaoh dreams. The word miketz is also meaning the end. The Zohar says that Pharaoh actually dreamed the same dream every night for 2 years. He almost died. And he says that every day will come to his so-called servant, the advisor, Khartoumim, and he asked him, this is my dream. What do you think? How can you explain this dream? Nobody could. And he started killing them. Because every day we wake up, he's about to die. And nobody solves. And as he kills them, says the Midrash, that all of a sudden, the dream that he has, that he's standing on the Nile, he always told his people that he's God, and he says, I can stand on water, I can do this, I can do that, I don't go to the bathroom ever. But of course, we'll see that Moshe will go and goes to the bathroom every morning on the Nile. And it says here that he had dreams of 7 beautiful cows, and then 7 very ugly cows, and the ugly cows and skinny one eats the 7th one. And then he has another dream. And he has the dream of the sheaves, the 7 and 7, same, beautiful sheaves, and then all of a sudden the very skinny eat the sheaves. And then the first one, it doesn't say that he woke up from a dream, only on the second one. It says that he came from a dream. It says, what happened here? Vehine chalom. You realize it's a dream, but something else is going on. So we know that the dreams of Pharaoh very much resemble the dreams of Yosef. And Yosef, as we know now, is in jail for 12 years. Originally, Yosef was supposed to be in jail only 10 years. Because about the Lashon Hara that he spoke of 10 brothers. And the extra 2 years, if you remember in last parasha, he said to the minister of the drinks, remember me. Says Gemara that when he said, remember me, he counted on mankind versus Hashem. And Hashem punished him with 2 extra years. And of course, now Pharaoh is dreaming this dream and is about to kill the next advisor, which is actually the minister of drinks, Sarah Mashkim. And this Sarah Mashkim comes to him and says, Because, he didn't, not that he liked Yosef or Pharaoh for this matter, he just didn't want to die. He comes to Pharaoh and he says, "Vaydaber שר המשקים את פרעה לאמור את חטאי אני מזכיר היום." I'm here to come in to confess about 2 sins. So the Gemara says, one sin, he said, I tried to sleep with your daughter, to Pharaoh, which is not allowed. Saris Paro, all the servant of Pharaoh, not allowed to be with any of the wives of the king or daughters or anything like that. And the second one, I forgot to tell you that there is a guy that can solve your dream. And here you are suffering for 2 years. It says, Paro katzaf alavada. He was very angry. Katzaf means, somebody that's extremely, extremely angry. So, it says that now that the minister of Sarah Mashkim, he tells Pharaoh, we had a dream, me and the baker, and he solved it exactly what happened. He told me after 3 days, you restore me into the court and you'll kill the baker. And that's exactly what happened. He knew exactly how to solve our dream correctly. He can solve your dream. And he says, but I have very much, somebody, somebody that very much solved our dream according to his, but he always, Yosef, Hashem was with him in every place, right? Even Potiphar says, wow, God is with him, right? And when he went to jail, he became the warden of jail. Even the person in charge of jail made Yosef the warden. Yosef was taking care of everybody. And he's always had Hashem with him and always was modest. And everything that he did, he says, is because of Hashem. Even with the dreams of the 2 ministers, whatever Hashem tells me, I will tell you. And of course, he says now that, he's trying to belittle Yosef. This ministers of drink says, Vesham itanu na'ar ivri. He says there is very much this young boy, Na'ar is a teenager. Yosef is not a boy now. He's 30 years old. He went to jail at 18, and he's been 12 years now. He's 30 years old. The year is 2030 to the Hebrew count. Yosef is 30 years old. And he said, but there is a boy, like a young man, a teenager. Nar in Gematria is foolish, shote with tet. He says, it's not smart. He's trying to belittle Yosef. So, it's just something first, the question is asked, why Yosef was in jail for extra 2 years? The Rambam said that you're allowed to do hishtadlut. You have to, if let's say you have a chance to be saved, it's okay to ask another person to help you in addition to Hashem. But because Yosef asked twice, he was punished. Said the Graf from Brisk, he said, if he asked once, he will never go to extra year in jail. But because he asked twice, he went to jail for extra 2 years. The prophet Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu Navi, which was the father of Yecheskel, as we mentioned, and he's actually the grandson of none other than Yoshua bin Nun and Rachav. And Yecheskel is the grandson. Yecheskel and Yirmiyahu are part of 8 prophets that came from Yoshua and Rachav, and 18 Kohanim, so righteous. And he says in his book, he says, Ko amar Adonai arur hagever asher yiftach be'adam. Says Jeremiah, I want you to know, a person that trusts mankind is cursed. Arur is really very, very bad thing, is a curse. On the other hand, he says, Baruch hagever asher yiftach ba'adonai, v'haya Adonai miftacho. How blessed is the man that trusts Hashem, and Hashem can be his shelter. Gever in Hebrew is not really a man, so to speak. Gever is a Jew. Every man and woman Jewish. Gever is an acronym of 3 qualities that only the Jewish people possess. There is Gomle Chasadim, Gimel, they do chesed, even with the world, with everybody. Bet, they Baishanim, shy. They're very, good religious Jews. They're always very humble, right? Unless they're not, that means they're not really good inside. They're just on the outside. And the last thing is Rahmanim, merciful. The first word of Tehillim is Ashrei. Ashrei is really, in a sense, is our forefathers and three mothers. Ashrei is Avraham, right? Shin, Sarah, Rachel, Rivka, Yaakov, Yitzchak, right? The letters. And not Leah. Leah came, Ashrei Ish Asher Lo Halach. Lo Halach is Leah. Lamed, Aleph, Hey. David HaMelech says, I want you to know, learn from our forefathers and mothers that very much they had this quality and they trusted Hashem throughout everything. Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov and their wives never ever left Hashem, no matter how difficult the situation was. It says, Jeremiah the prophet, which is the father of Yechezkel, I want you to know, because of the Lashon Hara that Yosef spoke, it took him 12 years to get over it. A person to get over Lashon Hara, it takes 12 years. This is what Yirmiyahu Navi says. Because Yirmiyahu was trying to save his temple. Yirmiyahu is a reincarnation of King Solomon. For 40 years he comes and tried to save his temple from who? From his great-grandson. Nebuchadnezzar was the great-grandson of Shlomo HaMelech with the Queen Shiva. And he taught us so many things about, why, the first Bet HaMikdash. It starts with Lashon Hara. He says MIKETZ is also 3 elements that a Jew has to have in order to succeed. When times are tough and you have a problem ahead of you, there's 3 things you have to do. It's called MIKETZ. MIKETZ Mamon means you have to give Mamon, tzedakah. You have to have kol, you have to pray to Hashem, tefillah. And you have tzaddik, you have to latzum, fast, ta'anit. With those, MIKETZ will end, right? At the end, it will end. And of course, it's very interesting, the word MIKETZ is also an acronym for the 3 of the 6 questions that Beidin Lemala, when we come in front of Hashem, Be'ezat Hashem 120 years, they ask us 6 questions. MIKETZ is 3 of them. Masa u'matan, which is basically, how was your dealing? Were you decent? The second one is Kavata Zemanim La Torah. Did you set time for Torah? And Tzaddik is Tzipita LeMashiach Bechol Rega. Did you wait for Mashiach every moment? So, the 6 questions altogether, just, as you know, the first one is, again, Nasata Venatata Be'emunah. Were you doing a good business with your fellow man? Kavata Itim La Torah. Did you set time for Torah? The third one, Asakta bepriya vereviya. Did you make the mitzvah of having children? And then the fourth one, Tzipita leYeshua. Did you expect Mashiach every day, every moment of the day? We see that the taking of Yosef out of jail is like exactly how Mashiach is going to be. Very fast, very extreme, that the kings of the world will help us with this. And the 5-1 is Pilpalta bechokhma. Did you learn and study well, and did have a chavruta, had a class like we're doing? And the 6-1, Hevanta davar mitoch davar. Did you understand the bina of the Torah? It says that when Yosef now has been basically told by the minister of drinks to Pharaoh, look, I have somebody that's sold. Pharaoh will rush him out immediately. It was Erev Rosh Hashanah. It was the evening before Rosh Hashanah. Okay, 2030. And they wash him, they clean him, they dress him up, they fix his hair, everything, they bring him up to the king, presentable. He says, really, in a sense, this is how it's going to be in the days of Mashiach. It will be so fast, right? When Mashiach ben David comes, or Mashiach ben Yosef first, things will happen so fast. The Gra Kadosh, the Gaon from Vilna, says it will take 9 minutes. 9 minutes for chaos in the world. Some say 9 months, but it would be an amazing, amazing fasting. And Ainu kecholmim will be like dreamers. And then Az Yamal Eschok Pinu, then we'll be laughing like, what the heck is going on? And you'll see that kings of the world that wanted to destroy us will help us. When Mashiach comes, like Pharaoh, basically, who's Pharaoh? Pharaoh is the grandson of Noah. His Noah's son Ham had 5 kids, and one of them is Mitzrayim, Egypt, right? The brother of Canaan. And he says he recognized in Yosef what he missed from his grandfather Noah. And he actually, that evening, he comes to Pharaoh, and we see that now Pharaoh is about to tell him the dream. But it says, Vayomer Paro Yosef, Chalom Chalamti, I had a dream. Welcome, Maurice. Chalom Chalamti says, I had a dream. And we know that there's nobody that can resolve this dream. And I heard about you, says to him. Vayan Yosef et Paro, Yosef said to him, listen, with all due respect, I want you to know, Bil'adei Elohim, if God doesn't tell me, I cannot resolve your dream. Don't trust what he told you, this minister. If only Hashem helps me, I can. This is really to show Pharaoh that Hashem is above him. And if you want a resolution, you have to recognize God. And we'll see that exactly what happened. It says here, Vaydaber Paro Yosef. He starts telling the dream to Yosef. He says, I'm standing al Sefat HaYeor. I'm standing on the banks of the river of the Nilus. You know, Yosef stops him and says, I'm sorry. Your dream is not like that. You're standing on the water. That's how it was in your dream. Hashem just told me the word Sefat is extra. Pharaoh was astonished. He says, wow, were you with me in a dream? It's just me and whatever Hashem will ever give me this dream. He said, yeah, but you did not stand on the banks. You stand on the river. Pharaoh understood that this is really Hashem is with Yosef. And he basically tried to challenge him to see if really he knows how to solve the dream 100%, not 99, 100%. He tried to lie to him and Yosef corrected his own dream. But you know, the word Sefat, what Sefat is language, right? Also Sfatayim, lips. You know, and every Thursday in Tehillim we read on Thursday, he said that Edut beYosef samo, betzeto al eretz Mitzrayim, Sefat lo yadati eshma. Says Yosef, this is the Tehillim, by the way, that Yosef wrote. You know, many people wrote Tehillim, not just David. David HaMelech wrote only 72 chapters of the 150. Adam wrote Yaakov, Yosef, Moshe, Anshe Knesset HaGdola. By the way, whenever we say Mizmor LeDavid, King David did not wrote Mizmor LeDavid. The Knesset HaGdola added LeDavid. You know, which one David wrote. And we see here that it says, Hashem came to me and says, I did not hear the word Sefat in your dream. But it's also Edut beYosef. Yosef, that night came the angel Gabriel and added the letter Hey to him. And by adding the letter Hey, Yosef was able to challenge all the so-called advisors of Pharaoh. He spoke 70 languages in one night. You know, Kadosh Baruch Hu, when he created the world, Behei Bereshit bara, right? Bereshit it says Behei Bera'am, right? The letter Hey, Hashem created the whole world, just one letter. And it says every time that Hashem added the letter Hey to a person, godly things happening to them. With Abraham, for an example, Sarah, right? Originally was Sarai. With Yosef, Yehosef. And he says something amazing, you know. After he tells him the dreams, Yosef says to him, basically, I want you to know, this is one dream. And you dream it every night. This is a prophecy. And I want you to know, beyond what's going to happen. He explained to him, this is the dream. You'll have 7 famine years. The famine came before originally, but Hashem changed it because Pharaoh gave the respect to Yosef and made him a king. And then 7 great years. But, you know, Gemara asked and the Malbim says, why did Yosef went extra to give him a lot of solutions that he didn't ask for? He just asked to, you know, please, you know, resolve my dream and interpret it for me. Explain, what am I dreaming? But Yosef went extra. The word Yosef is to add, right? Yosef is to add. Yosef, even when his father says, go just see your brother. Right? Go to Shechem, just see. But Yosef did not stop there. He could not find them there. He went to find them. Even the angels says, you know, they don't want to be with you. But Yosef went extra. He says, I want my brothers, I want the people of Israel to be together, even though we have disagreement. I was basically telling them prophecies that Hashem showed me through my dreams. He's telling Paro, listen, yes, you're going to have this and that. But there's a way where you can survive this. And Yosef gives him all solutions. And, you know, he says something amazing. That after he solved this dream, all of a sudden, you know, there's hundreds of people there. It's not just Yosef and Pharaoh. And they hear that exactly that, even Pharaoh trying to challenge and lie to him, he corrects Pharaoh all the time. He tells him, no, this is what exactly happened. You were standing there and this, and I want you to know the solution to all this is A, B, C, D. Here's what we can do. Pharaoh was so astonished. He says, look, nobody can solve these dreams. All my so-called advisors, they said, come this Hebrew guy and solve and give me a solution how to really do it. And that day, it was, like I said, the evening before Rosh Hashanah. The question is asked, why? As I said, the Malbim asked, why Yosef told extra? He says, right before Rosh Hashanah, Erev Rosh Hashanah, you have the next day Rosh Hashanah. The whole world is judged on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is the creation, right? Bereshit is Aleph Bet Tishrei. When the sin happened with Adam and Chava and the snake, it happened on Erev Shabbat. It was Rosh Hashanah. And from that moment, Hashem had to judge creation on every Rosh Hashanah. From Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, everything is decided on Rosh Hashanah, right? Except for the Jewish people, when you have 10 days, you can change the decree, right? Until Yom Kippurim, then it's sealed. And Yosef says to Pharaoh, I want you to know, tomorrow you'll be judged, all your people, all the creation, all the animals, all the mountains, all the trees, all the sea creature, everybody get judged. Hence, whenever something happened during the year, it's already established on Rosh Hashanah, for good and for bad. And Pharaoh says, really, I did not know that. He says, I'll tell you what, there is a way to survive this. And he gives him a bunch of solutions. And we know that something amazing. Pharaoh says, Ve'ata yera paro. He sees now that he has the best advisor he ever had in his life. And he calls him Navon ve'chacham. He's not just smart, he also knows all the solutions. And he actually called him Avrech. The word Avrech was given by Pharaoh. Avrech is the one that called Yosef, right? Pharaoh called him Avrech, Elohim Berech. It says God blessed him. He knows everything. They say there's very, very, very few people that has everything blessed by them. Yosef was one of them. He was handsome. The only man in the Torah that the Torah described handsome, Yefeh Torah v'Yefeh Mar'eh, is Yosef. And he's Chacham v'Navon, and he's Avrech. That evening, the so-called advisors, the Khartoumim, was challenging Pharaoh. He says, how can you make him a king? That night, he's just a Hebrew slave. He just came out of jail. He says, no. He has all the solutions that none of you had. So they said, listen, in order to be a Pharaoh, you have to know 70 languages. And they said, we want to test him. And Yosef says, no problem. Tomorrow morning, I just got out of jail. I'm tired. We'll do it tomorrow morning. That night, the angel Gabriel came and taught him everything that he needed to know. And he spoke 70 languages. The way they choose the Pharaoh is they challenge them by languages. And the pyramid had 70 levels. And everybody that can answer go up. That's how they choose their Pharaoh. This current Pharaoh knew everything. Come Yosef, after both Yosef and Pharaoh reached the 70 levels, Yosef looks at Pharaoh, says to him in Hebrew, Ashrei yoshvei betecha od yalelucha sela. Pharaoh looks at him and says, what is this? He says, it's not the language. It's called Sfat HaKodesh, Sfat HaElokim. Pharaoh says, you know more than me. That means you should be Pharaoh. But I tell you what, here's my ring. You're in charge. I'm just the president. You're the CEO. Because Yosef knew more. And he made him swear to him. He did an oath. He says, don't tell them. I'll make you the king tonight. That's exactly what happened on Rosh Hashanah. Yosef became the king of the world, out of jail, to the king of the world in one day. He says, this is really how Mashiach will be. When they come, all of a sudden, everybody has anti-Semites, they laugh at us, they hurt us, they kill us, whatever they do to us. That moment, Hashem will judge all the nations in one day. 2/3 of the world will disappear. 1/3 remain, people that recognize God among every nation. It says Pharaoh became the king by who? By the king that wanted to kill him. Right? Like with Moshe Rabbeinu. Who raised Moshe? Pharaoh and his daughter. Right? They wanted to kill him. This exactly, just so you know, it's called Alila. It's hidden within an act amongst the Goyim. That's why all the people that came to Israel, from David HaMelech to Mashiach, from Ruth the Moabite, right? Came Yosef here from the jail of Egypt, Moshe in the Teva. Everything that we have to understand is really never give up. He said from the depth, from the depth, I will raise you to the highest level. And if Yosef, as we know, now Pharaoh is making him a king, and he makes him a king, and he gives him a new name. You know, he says, a new name that he gave him is Tzafnat Pa'anach. You know, Tzafnat Pa'anach is really a name that describes everything that Yosef knew how to do. You know, when he says to him, for an example, he says to him, I have, you know, something amazing. He says, Shlom Paro. The Torah says when Paro was describing the dream to him, he says, you know, was no peace to Pharaoh. He says, Shlom is an acronym. Shibulim Lukmim, Shibulim Meleot. You know, you have the 7 sheaves versus the 7 sheaves that will eat them. You have Paro is an acronym. Parot Raot, bad cows, and Aim Hatovot with the good cows. But in a sense, what Yosef dreamt? Yosef had the same kind of dream, that his brothers, you know, picking sheep, and they all bow to his sheep, right? In a sense, this is the famine of the 7 years. And when they, second dream, when they, so to speak, the sun and the moon and the 11th star bow to him, this is exactly what's going to happen now. Everybody's going to come to Egypt to make and fulfill the dream in reality. And when he gave him the name Tzofnat Pa'anach, it's really in a sense, he says that something amazing happened here. The Tzofnat Pa'anach, because you know, he cannot make him, so to speak, Yosef over. You know, imagine Mr. Shirazzi or Morris, let's say I go to Iran, right? First they'll kill me if they saw me. But let's say I manage to get to the Ayatollah, and the Ayatollah has a dream, and I solve it to him. Now, if the Ayatollah comes and listen, I'm going to make this rabbi a king, they're probably going to kill him and me at the same time, right? Same time, right? But he says, Yosef was such a smart man that he knew how to maneuver and gave payola to the so-called government of Egypt. When he became that king, he gave him Tzofnat Pa'anach. It says really, in a sense, he knew how to, everything, the acronym of Tzofnat Pa'anach, in a sense, is really everything that Yosef knew how to maneuver and become a king where everybody can like him. Tzofnat is Tzofe Podeh Navi Tomech. Yosef will be able to see every problem that's coming ahead of him. Podeh, he would make sure how to survive this kind of problem. Navi, he was a prophet. And Tomech, he was a supporter. Whatever opinion they had, he will find how to really maneuver. It says, for an example, he says, listen, there's going to be, everybody has to give 20% taxes. You don't. I'll pay you 20%. So, okay, now we're close to the plate. These are government's work, right? You had Zelensky coming to the America, right? He's not Jewish, just so you know, everything is Jewish. He's not Jewish. His mother is not Jewish. His wife is not Jewish. His kids are not Jewish. He spoke of Christmas and not even one word of Hanukkah, right? Zelensky, for an example, every time the Ukraine voted against the resolution of Israel, they voted against Israel. Every time. They celebrate all the Nazis. You know, Ukraine is the original Nazis of the world. They killed almost 2 million people in Ukraine before Hitler. Today, every street in Ukraine is named of a Nazi leader that killed millions of Jews by a very horrific way. Babi Yar, there's a lot of stories, I don't need to tell you. And Pa'anach is Poter Ozer Navon Jose. It was very much, has every solution how to help everybody, because, you know, in a sense, Yosef now is coming to a kingship, and he basically is going to rule the world. You know, Hashem changed the order. First, originally it was says 7 years of famine. Why? Because the bad cows ate the good cows, right? But Hashem changed the first 7 great years. And Yosef goes to every town. He's really the Amazon of the world, right? He creates centers in every city. Yosef basically taught the world everything that we deal with today. If it's real estate, if it's distribution, if it's centers, if it's how to harness agriculture, how to keep it fresh for 7 years, how to distribute. Then when people come, they have to pay, everything that has to do with, supermarkets, everything that has to do with registers, money, exchange, and people then have to work for him, HR, right? And people have to sell themselves, slavery, so to speak. And the people have to sell everything that has to do with real estate, everything has to do with hedging the stock market, psychology, you name it. Yosef knew everything. And he taught the world. In a sense, he owned the world. Within 7 years, the second years that came, the 2 years of famine, the whole world was basically nothing grows, no rain. Everything comes to Egypt to come mashbir, right? It's very, very interesting. Akadosh Baruch Hu, when he brought the famine, all of a sudden, on the second year, remember, Yosef now is 39 years old. Because 7 years passed of the greatness and 2 years of the famine. And now, all of a sudden, Yaakov says to his children, Redu Shama. He goes to his 10 children, not 11. Binyamin was not part of the cell. He tells the 10 brothers, go down to Egypt. Redu Shama is a prophecy. Redu in Gematria is 210. Shama, Hashem, Moshe will take you out after 210 years. And he says to them something else. He says to them, Lama titrau. Why? What are you afraid of? Because there was famine in Israel, but for 2 years they were afraid to go down to Egypt. The Midrash says that Yaakov sent them every time, say, go get some food. We have money, we have everything, but we don't have food. And they were terrified to go because they sold Yosef, to the Ishmaelite, Mishalite, Midianite, they sold him to Egypt. They're like, we can't face, if we go to Egypt, that means somehow we're going to have to look for him. And he says, don't be afraid. He says, Lama titrau. He says, don't be afraid. In a sense, he says to them, I heard something. Now, Yaakov, I want you to know, he always knew, as we mentioned before, that Yosef is not really dead. Right? If you're not dead, that means he cannot really stop. If somebody dies, after 12 months, you stop going through the mourning period. That's it. Yaakov never stopped. That means there's no dead person, right? And he says to them, I want you to know, I heard there's food in Mitzrayim. He says, Yesh Shever, the Baal HaTurim says, is an acronym. Yosef Sham, Shehu ben Rachel. Go see Yosef, the son of Rachel. He's there in Egypt, I know. And Yaakov gives them very specific instruction. He says to them, do not go all in one gate. The brothers were very strong people, very, very powerful. As we know, Shimon and Levi, when they were killed, when they were 13 years old, they killed 24,000 Arabs, just the two of them. Imagine 10 of them come in one gate. It's a declaration of war. It says, each one of you go through a different gate. Egypt had 10 gates, and none of the gates had any people except it was actually a magic. Pharaoh knew how to create. For an example, you see Minotaur, right? Minotaur is half man and half animal, right? You have, like, for an example, if you see the Sphinx in Egypt, right? There's half men, half dogs. He created statues that can actually guard the border. There was no fence around the border. Not even one slave ever escaped Egypt. The people of Israel, after 210 years, will come out in Erev Pesach, in Pesach actually, they will come out through the gate of the dog. But the dog, as we know in Parashat Noach, he promised not to bark. Right? It's called the gate of the dog. Lo chartzu kelev, lo charatz leshono. They didn't bark. But here Yaakov says to them, there's 10 gates, each one go through a different gate. Yosef, when as a ruler of the country, when anybody important came, they will tell them, listen, this is the president of this country, this is the minister of this country, this is the king of this country, because they came to, buy food for their country. And he sees the list and says, oh, He brings them, he says, gather them. When he sees that each one went through a different gate. And when he sees them, he says to them, you are spies. Meraglim atem. He says, you're spies. And they say, no, we're not. He says to him, as we see here, Vayomer elehem meraglim atem. So, something amazing. The Zohar Kadosh says, Yosef said that word on purpose. He says, I will punish you first. There'll be other punishment. But the first punishment, because what you did to me, I will make you come back as the spies in Parashat. After 210 years, they come out. What happened in Vaishlach Moshe, right? They start spies. Those are the spies, the same brothers. Meraglim atem, you'll be the same spies that will die in the desert. You go speak Lashon Hara on the land of Israel. I spoke not Lashon Hara, I gave you prophet, and I was punished because you did not believe me. So you'll come back and you'll be the spies. That's why in Parashat Shlach Lecha, what Shlach Lecha? Shlach Lecha is, it says, Ish lamate, Ish lamate, meaning those heads of the tribes will come back. Meraglim atem. But also it says something, Meraglim is an acronym, it says the Baba Sali HaKadosh, Me'imi Rachel ganaftem, la'ishmaelim Yosef machartem. You took me from my mother and you sold me to the Ishmaelite. You stole me, ganaftem. I did not do anything back to you. I was a good brother. I was learning with our fathers. I was helping. I was even the shepherd of the two kids that you did not consider as their kids. I was very good. I've done all good. And you treat me at the worst place possible, trying to kill me, sending dogs, throw me into the pit, all kinds of things. And they said to him, no, we're not spies. They said, if you're not spies, why would you come through different gates? He said, no, we have one father, and they divulge a lot of information. The best technique to investigate anybody is to first put fear of God into them. They say, unfortunately, we see in Israel, there is a very, very corrupt, system of police, or, the left that did everything to scare the people of Israel so bad that they actually convinced the people of Israel that Benjamin Netanyahu did all these bad things, and he did nothing like that. But they feared they were able, the so-called Bagatz, Bagatz in Israel is the superior court. They all hate Israel, they hate Judaism, they hate Torah. They support Arabs more than religious soldiers. And they brought such chaos to Israel that finally the people of Israel woke up, says, no, enough is enough. Now even the head of the police, the past, Al-Sheikh, is lying like crazy. The guy has a kippah, right? He's not really religious. Same thing with Bennett, had a kippah, he's not really religious. He said Yosef put such fear in the people that the people actually believed in it, even though they're not the case. But Yosef had to do that. He says Yosef, when he put fear in them, is really, he understood the dreams are prophecies, and it has to happen. In order for the people of Israel to be redeemed, they have to come down to Egypt. It's called Dor HaBarzel. Barzel in Hebrew is the children of Bilha, Rachel, Zilpa, Leah. They said they have to come down here. And out of this 15 million that would be here, the best of them will come out, only 20%. Hamushim Yatsu. So Yosef had to do everything in order to make sure that what Hashem promised Abraham will happen. Exactly what's going to happen here. Of course, he says to them, if you're not spies, go ahead, leave one here, and then go back home so you can feed your families and everything. And they put extra money. He leaves Shimon behind. Why Shimon? Two reasons. One, Shimon was the one to push him into the pit. Out of the 10 brothers, Shimon threw him, pushed him. It's a 20 amma. 20 amma is 10 meters. You cannot see anything on the bottom. And this chutzpah of Shimon also, Yosef says, I have to separate him from Levi. He and Levi will fight Egypt. He can kill all Egypt. I have to separate them. And he keeps Shimon. And he sent them, they found extra money. They go to Yaakov and they tell him, and Yaakov is very upset with them. He says, what's going on? I sent you to buy food. What happened here? You should have come back with everyone. What is Shimon now? I said, tell him the story. He says, now Yosef is gone, Shimon is gone. And he says, go back, return the money, and bring Shimon back. Now they come down. What happened? He says, wait, is your father and the old man still okay? Yosef says, well, who's the father? Yaakov. The old man is Yitzchak. He's asking them about Yaakov and Yitzchak. Now they divulge that we have another son, Binyamin, and the other one is gone. His brother is gone. He never asked them about Binyamin. And he divulged this information and he used it against them. He says, okay, go back to your father. Here's Shimon. And then he does another things. He takes Ephraim and asks him to put, something amazing, He says to them, you have to bring Binyamin down. I want to see this other kid that you said. The reason he kept Shimon, because, Yosef could not recognize Binyamin. He left him. Binyamin was 7 years younger than Yosef. When Yosef was sold, he was 17. Binyamin was 10 years old, a kid. Now he's grown up, right? Now he's 32. He cannot recognize him. He doesn't know who's who. They can bring another guy. It looks like Binyamin. He said, here, this is Binyamin. Take him. He left Shimon so Shimon can recognize Binyamin before anybody else. And Shimon says, this is Binyamin. And Binyamin was not part of the cell. And of course, the Yaakov was so upset now. He says, why did you tell them you have another son? Now both of them will go, Binyamin and Yosef. This is the only kids I really had supposed to with Rachel. Tarof Toraf Yosef, I know you did it. But he doesn't say it to them. He just says, why should I lose another one? And of course, Reuven says, I'll be the grantor. If not, kill my children. Yaakov says, what is wrong with you? Your children are my children. What kind of thing is this to say? Because he said that, there were two wicked guys, Dahan and Aviram. They're the grandson, from the family of Reuven. They will be the two wicked that will die, actually, with Korach, because of what Reuven's son said. When Tzaddik says something, that's why Yaakov, when he says, whoever has the thing shall die, Rachel died. They say, whoever has the thing shall die, all of us. He says, no. Ephraim says, no, we don't kill. He'll be a servant. Eved, he changed what they said so it doesn't happen, chas v'chalila. The whole story of Binyamin, it tricks them again and put the gavia, they said that Yosef, took the course, right? He had a goblet. And he tricks them. You always look at the goblet and the solution is like a magic, like a pharaoh. They didn't know that it's not Yosef. They don't know that he's Yosef. He's grown up now, right? They left him when he was 17. He's all bearded. He has all the dress of a king. He has the makeup of Egypt. They don't recognize him. He recognized them, but they don't recognize him. And of course, everything that he does in order to bring to the fruition of the nevuah. And of course, he says, Yosef Shalit al kol haaretz. He's the king of the whole world. When we say Eretz, with the tzere is Eretz Israel. But Aretz is the whole world. And he was king of the whole world. Yosef was the king of the world, the longest king in the history of the world, 80 years. No other king or queen was more than Yosef. Longest. He was from 30 to 110. And now, of course, when they come to him and he does what he does to them, and Yaakov says, you took Shimon, and now you want to take Binyamin, and you want to really send me to hell. She'ola. Yaakov understood something, usually, and I say usually because we don't understand everything. They say in the Gemara that a person is not obligated by death until he's 20, right? A child is never obligated by anything until he's bar mitzvah. From bar mitzvah to 20, he's not obligated by death. He's obligated to do the mitzvot, and now he's obligated if he does any chataim, but when it comes to death, they're not punished by death. And Yaakov says, what? I lost Reuven, he was 17. That means something is very wrong here. He cannot die. I'm a tzaddik. He didn't say it to his brothers. He says to Hashem, Katonti mikol, I have not, you've done everything. You know who I am. I never left you. We've been with Lavan 20 years. Never left you, whatever, with Esav and Eliphaz. Every challenge you gave me, I stood by it. How come Yosef is dead? That's how he understood Yosef is not dead. But now he blames the brothers and basically hints to them, Yosef enenu is not here because of you. And now you want, Shimon is not here because of you. And now you want to take Binyamin. You want to kill me, send me Sheolah. And of course, we know that after all said and done, Yehuda then steps in. Yehuda, as we know, last parasha, he was demoted. Vayered Yehuda. Yehuda, why did he was demoted? Because he was supposed to save Yosef. Yehuda is really the king of Israel, right? Yehuda is also the Maccabi, right? Is the reincarnation. Yehuda Maccabi will come and defeat, right? Because he's part of what we call the kingship that can defeat Esav. Everything that happened in Hanukkah, 213 years into the second temple, is really Yehuda. Hashmonaim, right? Kohen. All this, in a sense, Yehuda was supposed to be the good one. But when he let the cell of Yosef, so to speak, and throw him into the pit, he was demoted. He demoted to such level, the Gemara says that nobody wanted to marry him. And he had to go and he married the Canaanite woman, right? We know in last parasha, he married a Canaanite woman and had 3 kids. 2 of them died. And then Tamar wanted to save him and brought Mashiach with him. The first Te'omim in the Torah, the good with Aleph, twins, is with Tamar and Yehuda. And now he's recognizing something. And he says, I have to come back to where I am. I will guarantee that I will protect. He doesn't say like Reuven, kill my kids, chas v'chalila. He says that, Vayomer Yehuda Israel, Avi, shalcha na'ar iti, send him with me, don't worry. I will protect him. V'nakuma v'nelcha v'nachyeh. We will be alive, I guarantee you. I'm with Hashem now. Yehuda is the only name has the letters of Hashem, Yud Hey Vav Hey, right? And then Dalet for David HaMelech, King David. It's also revealed to us here that he saw the prophecy of Yosef will become a king when he's 30 years old, right? Yosef become a king when he's 30. Yehuda, 30 in Gematria. And of course, it says, I'll be the grantor. If not, והצגתיו לפניך וחטאתי לך כל החיים. כל הימים. He says, if not, I'll be guilty all my life. This is a much, much greater punishment because death you die, right? But when you hold liability to somebody and you sin all your life, so to speak, you'll always be cursed. Your children will be cursed, everything. But Yehuda is really, that's when he rises up again. And Yehuda, they say that he had the power to really take Egypt by himself. How powerful he was. And of course goes, and here Yaakov says something amazing. Vayomer elehem Israel avihem. He says to them, Efo zot kechu mizmorat haaretz biklechem, vehoridu laish mincha, me'at serim, me'at dvash venechaot. Here, this is the secret that Yaakov knows that Yosef is alive. He sent him things that he and Yosef used to eat together or study Torah. And he says, I want you to know, the Ishmaelites usually transfer oil, but when they came to transfer Yosef, they were carrying things from the Ketoret. Something smells good. Send him that. That's why we add this to the Pituma Ketoret. It's the secret of Yaakov telling his brothers, I know Yosef is alive. Take him what he likes. When you go to see a king, you don't bring, a few fistukim and something like that, right? You don't bring him food. The king needs your food. A few of those, a little blossom and a little bit of tribute of honey and wax and lotus, what pistachios, what is this? And almonds. What kind of gift is that to a king? He said, no, this is really, in a sense, he's telling this what Yosef and I used to eat together and smell and do avdallah. And, the only thing in the part of the human that never sinned with Adam and Chava is the nose, af. That's why Hashem likes reach nichoach, Hashem. Reach, with havdalah, we smell something good, right? Why? Because the neshama did not sin with the nose. When Adam and Chava sinned, the nose was not part of this at all. The whole body was except the nose. And he said, take him those kind of smelly things. I know it's him. And of course, בכסף משנה, take even more money extra and return what he put in you. And of course, ויקחו ויקומו, ואל שדי ייתן לכם רחמים. Yosef, Yaakov, give them the name of El Shaddai. He says, I want you to know, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, until I met Hashem, he was known as El Shaddai to Abraham and Yitzchak, and that's it. No problem. And now I'm restoring this name at the name of Abraham and Yitzchak, that he's with you. They will be with you as well. And of course, ושילח לכם אחיכם אחר ואת בנימין ואני כאשר שקולתי שקלתי. He's basically telling, listen, if this were Hashem want, what can I do? You go ahead and do that. And of course, when Yosef sees Binyamin, they bring them all, and then Yosef does his trick with the goblet, and he sits them in the way they are birthed, in the order of birth. And they were like astonished. How does he know? Again, he knows them, they don't know him. And what he does, he gives 5 gifts to Binyamin. 5 gifts to Binyamin. He actually wanted to see if the jealousy still exists among the people of his brothers, the people of Israel. And they saw something, he gives them 5. It's also the 5 gifts is the story of Hanukkah and Purim. Because you know, in Purim, Mordechai Yehudi will be dressed 5 times by the king, right? And we parade by the king's chariot, right? Yosef did the same thing. He gave him 5 gifts. He takes his own, his wife was not, his Menashe, and Ephraim. He gives it to Menashe and Ephraim, and him and his wife 4, plus what he had already. He gives all of it to Binyamin to see if the brothers has jealousy. And he recognized that there is no jealousy. You know, those 5 gifts, and like the dream that that Pharaoh has represent Hanukkah. You know, there's 5 times beyad in the hand. And as we know, we read, on Al Anisim ve'al Purkan, we say, בימי מתתיהו כהן גדול, חשמונאי ובניו, he says that Hashem gave chazakim beyad chalashim, strong in the hands of the weak. And of course, he says, he gave also 5 in the beyad me'atim, in the one that was less than them. 180,000 soldiers came to fight against the 5 Maccabees and 8 warriors. And they won, 180,000. And he gives them also beyad tzadikim. He gave them in the hands of righteous, and he gave them in the hand of the poor, and the pure, versus the temeim. Where? In the hands of Oskei Toratecha. This is the essence of Hanukkah. The 7 cows represent also the 7 mother and fathers. We have Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, and Rachel. Those are 7. And of course, the 7 bad nations, what we call the nation that's right now in Israel, Achivi, Amoria, Perizia, Yevusia, Girgashi, those are the 7th kind that Hashem actually will be removed from Israel very, very soon. I will finish with one thing. The most important thing is to understand, Yosef does everything in a way to first do 2 things, to guarantee the redemption, but to also to give a chance to the brothers to do tshuva. But the brothers don't do tshuva. Even when Yaakov hints to them, they don't say, sorry, Abba, here's what we've done. Yosef is standing there, they don't do tshuva. He asks for Binyamin, they don't do tshuva. And of course, that's why it says, Vaterav mas'at Binyamin masa'ot kulam 5 yadot. Those are the 5 hands. Hashem says, I want you to know. Yosef gave them 5 chances to do tshuva. Here, he gave them actually 3. And later on, when Yaakov will pass and they'll go bury him, they'll come back. Yosef will take them to the hole where they threw him, and he looks in. And none of the brothers said, we're sorry, Yosef. Now, they know Yosef after that. They didn't say sorry. And again, when after Yaakov done, they didn't ask when they come back to Egypt, they would not ask for tshuva. They will tell Yosef something completely lie about Yaakov. Yaakov says, don't hurt us. Yaakov never said that. 5 times. And for that, they will come back as the 10 martyrs. You know, Rabbi Akiva, with his 9 friends, that was killed by Aspicianus in Rome, those are the 10 brothers. Why? Because they never ever did tshuva. And of course, the most important things from this parasha is also the 2 sons of Yosef. They are the best 2 sons in the history of the world, from the beginning of the world until this 2037 years. They were born when the 7 years of good. And Ephraim and Menashe is the Birkat Habanim, right? We bless our children with them every Shabbat. Because all the children before, from Adam all the way to Yosef and Usnat, were not good. Everybody had a problem, right? But Ephraim and Menashe, they loved each other, such a brotherly love, more than, what do you call that? Boston, what's the city of brotherly love? Philadelphia, right? They blessed each other all the time. Because of them, Osnat is really one of the most righteous. She's the daughter of Dinah that took out the klipa and came to give the best children to Yosef HaTzadik. In a sense, Yosef and his wife Osnat and Menashe and Ephraim is the epitome of a Jewish family. So Be'ezat Hashem, I'll leave some time for questions and we'll get to it, Be'ezat Hashem, next week for some more exciting news and episodes of the beautiful Torah. Thank you.
Hello, Rabbi. This is Maurice. How are you?
Hi, Maurice, how are you?
Baruch Hashem. Chag Sameach to you. Chag Chanukah Sameach. I have a question about not only about this. It's not about this week's parasha, but the portions that we read every day from Parashat Naso.
Sure.
And I always thought, because when we read that parasha, we zip through these things, but now that you read every section every day, you know that there are some subtle differences.
Yeah.
If you look at the first one, for Nachshon ben Aminadav, they call him Hamagriv. Then the second one, Bnei Yisachar, it doesn't start like that.
Yes.
Then the Bayom HaShalishi, from the first, second, the third day, none of the passages are the same. Now, besides the grammatical elements, I was wondering if there is any other secrets in the way Torah describes, because I always thought they're all the same, just to replace the name, but they're not the same. The verbiage is different.
What's the same is the miracle that all the president brought exactly the same, all in different, because the tribes are not together, right? They were assigned to their tribes, 3 on each side and 3 on each side. So you have 12 tribes, news, north, east, west, and south. You have 3 on each. Nobody communicated with each other as far as it, but each one brought the same items. But something amazing. It says, you said in your question, Nachshon ben Aminadav. You know who was Nachshon ben Aminadav?
Nachshon ben Aminadav was Aharon HaKohen's brother-in-law.
Yes, so
and he's the first one who was stepped in the Red Sea.
He's come from Yehuda, right? This is why I said Yehuda was restored now. But Nachshon ben Aminadav had a wife. Had a daughter, I'm sorry. You know what his daughter was?
No.
Elisheva was the wife of Aharon. Aharon is the mother and father of Kehuna.
Right.
That's why they came first. Okay? They very much, all the Kohanim in the world came from them. Right?
Right.
The Kehuna that came in the world, until now, we had 116 generations of Kehuna from Aharon. Right? And we know that even the Kohanim that will be and fight and win the war with Antiochus the Fourth and the Greeks, right? They will be from Shevet Yehuda, from Nachshon ben Aminadav, Kohanim. There is one issue. Why do we read it on Chanukah? We have 8 days, but we read 12 portions, right? 12 Messiahs. Something amazing. He says that, when they were coming to fight, this is not a beginning of war and the day. It's a 21-year war, okay? And after they won, something amazing happened. The Kohanim, which is the Hashmonaim, took the kingship of Israel out of the house of David. And because of that, they all died. There's no Hashmonaim today. The Gemara says if anybody came to say, I'm Hashmonai, No, it's a lie. Because they took what Hashem did not give them. Hashem says you be Kohanim, you're from the Levite, it's fine. You work the better, but you cannot rule Israel. It's only the kingship of David HaMelech, the family of David. So, like you said, there's a lot of, I can go through many, but I know you have Mincha and...
Right. Just one more question.
Yes.
The first one is called Hamakriv.
Yes.
And the second and third always called Hikriv. Is that like passive and active? Hamakriv means...
Yeah, so Hamakriv, yes, it's a beautiful question. Hamakriv is something that's both in the past, in the present, and in the future.
I see.
So you say one day we're going to come Lifnei HaKohen Bayom Ahu. There'll be a Kohen that day. Who?
Right.
This is Aharon will be there. When
I see.
there's the third one coming, the Zohar says it's coming already. We don't have to build anything. And who will come with it? Aharon HaKohen.
Wow.
You'll be standing around Be'ezat Hashem very soon. We'll be
God willing, God willing, God willing.
Be'ezat Hashem.
God willing.
It's,
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Sure. Hi, Alan. How are you? How's your mother? Barry has a question. I know Mr. Shirazzi has questions.
Hello, Rabbi. How are you doing?
Baruch Hashem. How's your niece? Your niece.
Yes, she's doing better. She's doing better.
I'm proud of her learning Torah and asking good questions. Kol hakavod. You know, in her name, right? Your name is Ivana, right?
Ivania.
Ivania, what's Ivania? You know, because many of the European Jews could not say I want. They used to say I want, right, Barry? So what is that? Is I want, I want Hashem. That's her name in Hebrew, right? Ivania. What's Is Yud Hey Hashem, right? The tribes of Hashem. They will be the judges of all the nations. So tell her we were very proud of her for always asking questions and to live up to this name. I want Hashem all the time. Be'ezat Hashem. How's your mother doing? Your mother doing good? Better?
Yes, she's doing better. Thank you, Rabbi.
Good. Send her our best wishes as always in Lrefua Shelema. And Chanukah Sameach, of course, to all of us.
Chanukah Sameach to you and to everyone.
Very good. You have a question, Alan?
Yes, Rabbi. It is said that everything that we have in the world, even today, was established by Yosef HaSadik. Even the tax exemptions for...
You know why Trump gave 20% tax instead of 37 like the Democrats? It's from Yosef. It happened exactly when Trump fixed the corporate tax. It was 20%. It was on this parasha, you know, of 20%. All right? That's from Yosef.
Yes.
Right, Barry? You, Mr.
Absolutely.
Mr. Washington, D.C. By the way, if you need any inside inroads with the government, you just go to them.
No, not this government.
You know, for the first time in the history of Israel, almost 80% of the ministers of Israel keep Shabbat. Isn't that beautiful? Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Starting very soon, you know, yesterday they made the coalition, Baruch Hashem. Why? Chanukah. When we are united, then we can win anybody, right? There's no coincidence everything happened. So from Rosh Hashanah, Hashem says, we're going to give it back to you on Chanukah Be'ezat Hashem. Why? You know, David HaMelech says, "Hapach nishbar ve'anachnu nimlatnu." Pach is a bucket, right? In metal. How can you break metal? You can bend it. It's a pach, is really Purim, Chanukah. When you united, that's the only two holidays that the people of Israel were so united, like they were stood in Mount Sinai. Am echad belev echad. And they were able to defeat millions of, you know, the soldiers of, just so you know, who is Antiochus? You know, after Alexander the Great defeated the Parasumadai Achashverosh, he ruled the whole world. He was 26 years old. And after he, very much, they killed him when he was 32 years old. And his so-called world became now 4 different generals ruling the world. Antiochus was one of them. Actually, Talmai was in Egypt, Antiochus was in Syria, and Antiochus is really the Greeks. But you know, today, just so you know, all the Arabs in the world come from Greece, most of them, not from Ishmael. Because the Syrian and the Babylonian, they were all Greeks that ruled the world. And he wanted one thing. He said, let's not kill the Jews. Let's make them like us. Let's take the Torah, no Brit Milah, no Kiddushin, no holidays. Let us have gay parade in the Kotel. Let us put Avodah Zarah. Yavan in Hebrew is noi, right? If you rearrange the letter Yavan, is noi, beauty. They all care about beauty. They said, let's just get the people there to believe in our beauty, in our outer things. They have nothing on the inside, right? But one day, the Maccabim says, enough is enough. We have to rise, no matter if it's just five of us. He had 21 million soldiers. Just the soldiers that were fighting in Jerusalem, 180,000. That the originally 8 people joined them, and then almost 200 other 80 people, they were able to defeat 180,000. When we united, Hanukkah is the only holiday that we celebrate that happened in Israel. All the other holidays did not happen in Israel, right? Happened in Egypt. We have the Pesach, right? Shavuot in the desert, Tu B'Shvat, Tu B'Av, Purim in Persia, right? All the holidays, except Hanukkah. All of them celebrate on the 15th of the month. Hanukkah is the 25th. Why? The first Hanukkah in the world, you know when it happened? In day of Bereshit, the first day. When God created the world, right? The fifth thing that he created was the light, Hanukkah, the Or Ganuz, right? Vayhi Or, let it be light. We have 36 candles on Hanukkah against the 36 hours of daytime for the first 3 days that the light, the Or HaGanuz exists in the world. Until the sun came, there was no sun, right? For 3 days. That's the first Hanukkah. And the Hanukkah was celebrated when they took the menorah, when they built the Mishkan, the tabernacle, in the second year of the desert. The last thing they stole was the menorah on Kafhei Bekislev, the 25th of Kislev, in 2449, the second year in the desert. That was the second Hanukkah. Everything is already, when Hashem says Bereshit, everything is in it. Everything and everyone. Any other questions? Barry, any good, challenging question? Don't worry, it's always.
No, it's too powerful. It's too powerful. Okay. Trying to absorb it all.
That's why
Rabbi,
we can watch it again.
Rabbi, one question. There are obviously other books. Normally we consider the Apocrypha. Some of them do mention Hanukkah, and I was wondering what the status of those books are, because they seem to be semi-holy.
Go ahead.
But
yeah, go ahead.
But what is the status of those?
So Hanukkah is mentioned in the Gemara, Masechet Shabbat. It's also mentioned Masechet Ta'anit. Of course, there is the Megillat Hashmonaim. There is Josephus Flavius, was one. He was one of the brothers that actually they forced him to convert, and he wrote everything that happened. When it comes to Hanukkah, Hanukkah is the last Takanat Chachamim, is the last mitzvah of Chachamim from the 620 mitzvot. Okay, we have 613 of the Torah, we have 7 of Chachamim. Hanukkah was the last mitzvah that it was installed by Anshe Knesset Agdola. When it happened a year after, they said the miracle that happened in Hanukkah, right? We should really celebrate 7 days because the one should be one for a good day. The can was enough for a good day, 1 day. So why we celebrate 8? They said that actually every day was filled up for 8 days. In order to do the Chanukiah, the menorah in the temple, you have to fill it up to the top, right? And of course, the Greeks, the fourth Antioch was destroyed, a lot of the inside. And doesn't say, because usually one, Kohen light, but now it says Vayadliku, many. They said that actually everything that you read in the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat or Masechet Ta'anit or the Megillat HaChashmonaim is telling you exactly what happened. And even when we say Ala Nisim Ala Purkan, and we read Bimei, Yochanan Kohen Gadol, just so you know, he was a Kohen for 80 years. And last year, he actually left Hashem. He became a tzdoki. But the sons were able to ask to have the prayer in his name to restore him to heaven. And that's exactly what happened. So everything that we read from other books, like for example, if you look at the gates of the championship in Rome, right? Sha'ar HaNitzachon, right? They have the menorah they took. It's not really the real menorah, just so you know. The real menorah was hidden by King Solomon. Did not transfer to the second temple, right? And very, very interesting, that when Titus destroyed the second temple, his brother actually 12 years later built this monument, not Titus. As we know, Titus died the moment he came. Hashem killed him, suffered for 7 years. He put a tush, the Gemara says, a small mosquito went through his ear to a brain. That was this. There is only one mosquito in the world that has no poop. He just eat. Nothing comes out. And he ate the brain of Titus for 7 years. When Titus killed himself, jumped off, his head split open, they found a mosquito the size of a bird, still alive in his head. So all the other stuff of Hanukkah, always go to the source, first and foremost, of the Gemara. Masechet Shabbat, Masechet Ta'anit, and the Hashmonaim Megillah. Okay, Sefer Hashmonaim. All right?
Thank you.
Pleasure. All right, any other questions? So Be'ezat Hashem, if not, Shabbat Shalom. Wishing you a wonderful, wonderful Shabbat, Be'ezat Hashem. MIKETZ, this is at the end. We're very close to the end now. So Be'ezat Hashem, continue studying Torah, be good people, and Hashem bless you all. Toda Rabba.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much.
Shabbat Shalom u'bevarach.
Thank you.